I'm so happy that everybody has joined us this afternoon. This is a very, very, very special Black Lives Matter town hall for us. You know, we've had incredible guests in this almost year-long period that we've been doing the Black Lives Matter town halls. We've been so fortunate to have so many different people come and share their expertise and their wisdom with us. We've learned so much over the last, well, it's been almost 9 months now. Over the last 9 months, we've learned so much. But our treat today is that we are focused on our amazing Black women and what they have done in their lives and how they contribute, how we work together to make things better in our world. Because remember, when we started down this road, that's what this is all about. And I'm so pleased to welcome these great women to our stage today. And I just have to give kudos to our amazing Dean, Dr. Thelma Day, who has provided incredible leadership to all of the work that's been done for race equity and social justice at LA City College. I don't know what we would have done without her and the team that she has assembled to work with. I'll let her introduce her team to you and refresh everybody's memory on the call out there of her team and the amazing work that they do. And Dr. Lancaster is here on the stage with us today. He's our Vice President of Academic Affairs, and he has done fabulous work for our college. So I'm just so, I mean, this is such a great day. I mean, you know, obviously this is our month, you know, Women's History Month. And I've been around for some time, so I have a lot of history. So to be able to be in a room with such amazing women is such a fabulous afternoon for me. So I thank you so much for giving yourselves to us this afternoon and for coming to talk with us this afternoon, share your experience and share your wisdom and share some great love with us too. So thank you so much for coming and for joining us. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Day.
Wow, thank you, Dr. Gallagher, for those kind words. And always thank you for your support. On behalf of the Black Lives Matter team, we want you to know that we always appreciate you for allowing us to do this work. For almost 9 months, as you said, we have been having these critical, courageous, conscious conversations, and we've been bringing individuals to our campus who can really help us understand how we are going to address these issues. So I'm excited about the town hall meeting this afternoon. I'm very excited about our guest, and I know that we're going to have a wonderful afternoon. So I say, let's get started. We are live now, so good afternoon and welcome to the Black Lives Town Hall meeting, Black Women in Leadership in Higher Education. Our town hall meeting today is twofold. Today we will commemorate Women's History Month. At the same time, we are going to have that critical, courageous conversation with a very special guest. As we begin our town hall meeting discussion this afternoon, we're just going to take a few minutes to celebrate, salute, and pay homage to this special woman whose legacy in higher education is just stellar. She is indeed a phenomenal woman. Dr. Marguerite Archie Hudson is a trailblazer and a pioneer in higher education. She has done some incredible things in higher ed. She earned her PhD, at UCLA, her master's degree from Harvard, and a bachelor's degree from Talladega College. Dr. Archie Hudson is not a stranger to Los Angeles, to California. Today we say, welcome home, Dr. Archie Hudson.
Thank you.
She is a former LACCD board trustee, former California State Assemblywoman, and she is the first African-American woman in the history of the state of Alabama to be the president of the HBCU college, Talladega College. She is currently teaching political science at the Charleston School of College in Charleston, South Carolina. She is my sister in service. We share membership in two unique international organizations, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated and the Links Incorporated. Today, you're going to hear from this phenomenal woman. She's going to share her story for about 30 minutes. We're going to hear her incredible journey, but at the same time, she's going to leave us empowered, and she's going to share recommendations and things that we can do to address race, equity, and social justice. After she shares her story, I'll come back because we also have some special guests who have special messages for Dr. Archie Hudson. Then we'll have a Q&A from the audience. You'll have an opportunity to engage and interact with her and ask those burning questions of her. Don't be shy. She's ready for those questions. But before I turn the town hall meeting over, I would be remiss if I did not take this opportunity to thank my very special friend, Dr. Carlos McGee, who is president of the Inglewood School Board, for reconnecting me with Dr. Archie Hudson. Dr. McGee, thank you so very much, and we look forward to hearing from you and seeing your face in the town hall meeting today. So let's get started. Dr. Archie Hudson, it's your time. Welcome to Los Angeles City College.
Well, thank you, Dr. Day, Sarah Day, my link sister. Thank you so much for inviting me to talk to this Black Lives Matter town hall. I thank President Gallagher for welcoming me to the campus. It's been a while, but I'm happy to be back here, so thank you. I'm excited to say hello to my fellow trustee, alumni trustee, Trustee Henderson. I am delighted that Senator Kamala will be here, who I call Sydney, by the way. I hope she didn't mind. And I'm really so thrilled to talk with all of you today. Now, Dr. Day gave me a lot of things I could talk about. And so I decided that I was going to take the liberty of talking in a broader sense about higher education or about this issue of race, justice, and equity. I will share a couple of stories about myself at some point, maybe not my prepared remarks, maybe not. But here is what I want to say to you today, my sisters and brothers who are listening. You asked me to come to close out Women's History Month and to share my story as part of her story, and to consider the role of Black women in higher education. And so I share my story, our story, as our story, because I am the product of that long line of sister warriors on whose shoulders we stand, the women from every culture, from every dimension, from every race, from whom this collective history that we celebrate this month is built. But we owe a particular debt to all the Black women who helped to build that history, who in their blood, in their sweat, in their faith, in their resilience, in their determination, and in the clarity of their vision that Black lives have always mattered, and that Black women would always affirm that truth. We come together in this moment to talk about challenges in higher education that are associated with race, with equity, and with social justice. We all know that has been a long conversation in this state and in this nation. And here, my sisters and brothers, is the summary of what we know. For Black women and for Black men, these are not issues of higher education in 2021, nor any other time. These are American issues, and they always have been issues of race, equity, and social justice. We have faced those issues throughout our history. In 1619, when we arrived on these shores as unwilling captives. In 1789, when this country wrote a constitution that excluded us as human beings. In 1865, when they dropped us like baggage into a hostile land. In 1965, when our blood, born, shed by so many people, brought us the right to finally speak our voice with a vote. And now in 2021, when members of Congress and architects of white supremacy speak exactly the same language. And the language is always about who belongs and who does not. And so I suggest to you that these issues, race, equity, and social justice, are triggered by three fundamental questions, as they always have been. Question one, who gets a seat at the table where and when the decisions about peace, about race, equity, and justice are made? Number two, who controls the agenda about these particular issues that shapes that critical conversation? And number three, who gets to decide what decisions are made and who should benefit from all of the blessings of this land to which we all contribute? Black men and Black women throughout history have paid close attention to these questions because we've always known them. And they have, in so many ways, shaped our own answers. And some of the times at that table, we have brought a folding chair because we did not have one set aside for us. And at other times, we have built an alternate table of our own. That's why Harriet Tubman decided that she would build an underground railroad so slaves could hope to become free. That's why Sojourner Truth spoke her truth about the value of Black women at that historic convention in Seneca Falls. That's why Ida B. Wells endured racism and sexism and violence to record the history of lynching of Black men in a historic document called the Red Book. That's why Rosa Parks did not get up from her seat on a bus where she had paid to have one. And we've been joined by Black men, Frederick Douglass, who reminded us that power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has, and it never will. Two slaves, William Savory and Thomas Tarrant, built my college on their own hands, Talladega College. And you know why in 1867? Because they understood that if newly freed slaves would be educated, we would have to build the institutions. Race, equity, justice. A Black woman, Mary McLeod Bethune, built Bethune-Cookman College for that same reasons. These institutions, Hampton, Howard, Fisk, Spelman, Talladega, Morris Brown, all of them, these are the institutions that educated the Martin Luther Kings and the John Lewises, trained the Fannie Lou Hamers, inspired the Shirley Chisholms, produced the Stacey Abrams. And so, my sisters, here is my story. My life has been inspired by Black women and sisters of every race, color, creed, gender, and social justice, who have worked so hard to find a place and clearly understood that if these issues are going to be fairly adjudicated, there has to be a place for them on the public agendas, not just in our institutions, including higher education. We must be a party always to that conversation. And the reason why that is true should be clear. Look at our Congress. Listen to the decisions that are being made. So many of the people who raise a hand to close us down. Look in around our legislatures and look at all of the issues with which my friend Sydney Kamlaga will be struggling as she looks at people across the country where 300 plus ballots, measures have been introduced for the sole purpose of making sure that those issues we want to talk about will never be on the table. And look at our universities. We know them well. We know that throughout California, throughout South Carolina, throughout Georgia, name the place, in every single solitary institutions, which were built by our taxes or built by private hands, Black women, Black men have to struggle twice as hard, be 5 times as good, and struggle twice as hard to be able to get a place at the table. I know in my own institution that we're always told that the reason we don't have more African Americans is because we can't find them. I had the most ridiculous conversation when I first came to the College of Charleston, where I dared to ask, why is it that in a public institution where we have 12,000, 15, 20,000 students, where we have 6,000 faculty members, we've got less than 100 African Americans? And I was told that we always look for them, but they don't always come. And I was then further told by a member of the mathematics department that, you know, we worked very hard to find an African-American mathematics professor, and we offered him a job, and guess what? He went to Harvard. I said, no kidding. That's the kind of issue that we face, you face across higher education across this country. But those issues, as we see them in the halls of higher education, look at our trustees, look at our administration. I'm proud of City College. I'm proud to see all of the faces here, but that doesn't represent America. America looks much more like what I was just talking about on that table, where when we are going to have those critical conversations that Dr. Day was talking about, we are not a part of that. And while, as Shirley Chisholm said long time ago, if you don't have a seat at the table, find a folding chair and go get one. Rosa Parks and other people said, we may have to build the chair, and sometimes we may have to build a table. And so the summary is that we will have to do whatever we need to do to be a part of that very critical conversation. And we've been at this for a long time. We know, but what we also know, and it's so important for us to remember in this time of Black History Month and Women's History Month, that these are not new issues for us. I repeat again, these are not issues of higher education. These are issues of an America who 400 years later is not willing to acknowledge that this is a big tent in which everybody must have a place. In point of fact, what we see in the most profound way, with January 6th being the example, the length to which the public Voices of America will go to make sure that as this country looks more like those of most of us who are there, certainly like me, that the halls of justice, the power levers may revert and go into the other direction. That's the commitment that people who are at the table and who are a part of that public agenda first privately were committed to, and now, if we pay attention, are publicly committed to, which is why I said in the beginning that if you listen to the conversation of our members, our elected officials who are sworn to uphold the Constitution, and the persons who wear the hat of white supremacy, that conversation is exactly the same. And so when we think about all of those things, it sometimes really bring us down and have us think that we will always be knocking at the door or finding a folding chair. But what happens when we have issues like we're doing now, when we recognize that there's a reason for African American History Month, though I'm offended by the length of it, that at least it gives us a time to stop and pause and think and remember the struggles of people, our ancestors through all of these years, who never, ever, ever accepted that they were less or that they deserved less. And so despite whatever happened, they always, as that poem said, the strong, they kept a-coming. And it's also important to know that we celebrate Women's History Month, because this month affirms for us the connectedness between two definitions of humanity, each of which has in their own way always been the subject of subjugation, that is. And I think the reason for that is that we begin to realize that having come through that whole long history, we're smarter, we're quicker, we're brighter, we're more resilient, and we understand what the issue is. And so while sometimes I, like you, can get to be either cynical or have to talk to myself about whether the struggle is worth it or how much it's worth, I am basically pretty hopeful. And the reason I'm hopeful is that in this time, we have clear evidence that the women in this country, and especially Black women, are changing who has a chair at that table. Evidence: Kamala Harris, Howard University graduate, Vice President of the United States of America, arguably one of the most powerful women in the world, who didn't ask to have her seat. She strode up there. And when she realized that she would not make that particular step, she decided that there was something else she could do. And what a comment for Kamala Harris, that the very person that she challenged on his commitment to a policy with which she did not agree, recognized that here was a woman to be respected and dealt with, and had the great good sense to say, in this leadership run, I want you on my team. I also think about three young women, Alicia Garza, Patrice Cullors, and Opal Tometi, three young Black women who got sick and tired of being sick and tired of watching young Black men officially slaughtered under the color of law, and turned from a moment of despair into a global movement called Black Lives Matter, and showed the world over this past summer the power of collaboration, of strategic planning, and of focus and of determination, and made the power of the ballot, our voice, in communities across this country. And finally, the women of Georgia, who put years of hard work and collaboration and strategic planning into action and plotted the time when their activities would matter most. And in 2020, November 2020, literally transformed politics and power in the deepest of the Deep South by electing a president and sending to the United States Senate 2 men, 1 Black, 1 Jewish, both disciples of John Lewis. And in that bold action, changed the power dynamic of the United States Senate. And so I say to you, as I say to me, and all Black women, as I close today, in this moment, we owe a great, deep gratitude to all of the sisters whose bravery and courage and resilience and determination created the paths on which we travel. And now, my sisters, it is our turn to pull up a chair at that table, take the gavel, and open our microphones. Thank you.
Wow. Dr. Archie Hudson, I need a moment. I need a moment or two to really process all that you have said. Thank you very much for those words. And I do need a moment to come back to ask questions. But before we open it up, I want to share a quote from the legend. You quoted "Sick and Tired of Being Sick and Tired," Fannie Lou Hamer, our soror Fannie Lou Hamer, an American voting and women's rights activist, when she said, "Never to forget where we came from and always praise the bridges that carried us over."
Exactly.
In response to that quote, we have invited some very special people here today to make sure that they say thank you for paving the way and for crossing that bridge. So I first would like to read a quote from Angela Reddock Wright, who could not be here today because of a personal appointment. And her note reads, "Honorable Marguerite Archie Hudson, thank you for paving the way for those of us who came behind you. Your legacy and work will endure always based on your creating a pathway for others."
Thank
In
you.
solidarity and love, Angela Reddock Wright, LACC Board of Trustee, 2006, 2009, and she sends it with her love.
That makes me cry. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And now I would like to ask Senator Sydney Kamlager Dove to come and make her remarks, and following her will be Trustee Nichelle Henderson.
Thank you.
Senator Kamlager, hey.
Yes, hi. Thank you.
Hi.
I wanted to jump on, and since we're honoring also Fannie Lou Hamer with her quotes, wanted to add, as I was listening to the great Dr. Marguerite, that she said, you know, Black people in this country will have to upset the apple cart.
Exactly.
And we can't upset the apple cart successfully unless we are learning from our elders and standing on their shoulders and being guided by them. And I have to say that is what happened to me when I was running to be on the board for the Los Angeles Community College District in 2015. I reached out to this amazing stalwart public servant, Dr. Marguerite Archie Hudson, to ask for her blessing and her guidance, and was grateful that she was able to give that to me. You know, I am the new senator for the 30th Senate District, and I just wanted to drop by and say hello and thank you to the amazing Dr. Marguerite Archie Hudson for her incredible leadership. You know, as a former assembly member and as a member of the Los Angeles Community College District, she has paved the way for so many Black women and also for so many young Black men interested in running for office. You know, during her tenure as an assemblywoman, she actually helped pass into law 47 laws. And among her senior achievement is actually the creation of the California Science Center, which is now considered a landmark, hallmark educational institution. And it's also where my offices are. So every time I go to work in my district office, I will be thinking of you. So I just wanted to come here and to say thank you. You continue to lead and guide so many of us, even though you are thousands of miles away. You are ever present throughout this city.
Thank you. Thank you. And I just want to say about Senator Kamala, I keep calling her Sydney. I got to not do that, but it's okay. She called me Marguerite. I was on with Sydney.
I do say Miss Marguerite. I learned. I say Miss Marguerite.
She doesn't know this, but a couple of weeks ago, the California Democratic Party had a Zoom where they, in honor of Women's History, Black History Month, actually, and on that Zoom was Senator Kamala, and I want to tell you that she is the hope of the California Democratic Party. She is the hope of the California legislature. And to hear people from San Diego to the Oregon border and all in between talk about how delighted they are that she is there. I just want to say to you, I was proud, and I wanted to say, jump on and say, but I know her. I didn't do that, but I want to congratulate you. You've done amazing things, and you will continue to do amazing things for the state of California and probably beyond. I'm so proud. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, I'm just happy that I was able to pass the torch to Trustee Nichelle Henderson, who I know.
Exactly.
That's a nice segue, but it's so good to see you. I hope you stay safe, and thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Kamala-Dove. Trustee Henderson, you're next.
Thank you so much, Dr. Day. Thank you, Senator. Good afternoon, everyone. You know, happy Women's History Month and what I'd like to call continuation of Black History Month.
Exactly.
Thank you, Dr. Gallagher and Dr. Day and the Black Lives Matter team for bringing us all together today. Wow, I was fangirling with Dr. Archie Hudson before the program started. And so I'll share, when I was researching this, running for this position, I wanted to find out how many Black women had held the position before me. And when I started researching Dr. Archie Hudson, I was beyond impressed, beyond motivated, beyond inspired. So Dr. Archie Hudson, wow, your resume is what I would say is the making of my wildest imaginings. And when I think of you, I'm just hashtag goals. You know, you so phenomenally have represented Black women leaders in higher ed, you know, with your historic first. You weren't just the first Black woman to serve as a college president in a state such as Alabama. You were the first one to serve at any college in Alabama as the president. And that's historic. You know, when we have historic moments, when we have firsts, that means that every person that comes behind you is following in your footsteps, the footsteps of a Black woman. And so to say that that gives me a sense of pride, I cannot describe it. But you've had a formidable career. I mean, you've had 3 successful careers when many of us pray to have one. Wow. So and I won't repeat the beautiful bio that Dr. Day read, but I just want to say to you that you inspire me, because I know that when Black women rise, we all rise. And as a new board member, only the sixth Black woman to serve on this board, which is, you know, a travesty in itself, but an honor. I take up the mantle of challenging the system of racism in education that we all know is sort of hell-bent on impeding the greatness of Black people and silencing the Black voices, especially those of Black women. So as my sister in Delta Sigma Theta sorority, Dr. Archie Hudson, I want to say to you, you have become my best friend in my mind. But you have phenomenally set the platinum standard for Black women leaders in education. And I truly aspire to leave the legacy that you have had and that you've created, because you set the stage for an Angela Reddock and a Sydney Kamlager and a Nichelle Henderson to follow behind you. So thank you. Thank you. And Dr. Day, Dr. Gallagher, I just want to say too, thank you for this opportunity for us to all come together to give Dr. Archie Hudson her flowers, because that is so important to do them while she can appreciate them. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I want to say to my sister, both of you and Senator Kamlaga and Althea Baker and several people who've been on this board, I recognize and know, and I'm happy to be a shoulder for those days when you are going to have some very tough hills to climb, as Amanda Gorman would say. And sometimes people think that serving on a board, this board, representing the largest community college district in the entire world, and having always as usually the one and the woman who is the voice for all of us. I recall my service on the board, and I recall all of the times when I have had to be the voice who reached for the microphone. Somebody had to snatch it and make sure that you got heard. I know that that will happen with you also. And I would say to you that every time that happens, it only happens when the conversation that you are forcing is a conversation that nobody wants to hear. And the one thing we all know, those of us who've been in elected office, is the minute people want to turn away, they want to close you down, it's because they don't want to hear exactly what your mic would say. Last thing I want to say about Los Angeles Board of Trustees, where I enjoyed serving for all the years. But you know what? In my last run for the board, I was defeated. I was defeated. I don't know if you guys know this. I was defeated by the union, who had always supported me. We got into trouble for a very interesting thing. There was a question before the board about our nursing program and where that nursing program should go. And I was the lone voice who said that particular nursing program, which was going to be new, needed to go to Southwest College. I was told that it really needed to go to another campus. And I said, no disrespect to any campus. I represent all the campuses, but I have a particular interest in growing the campus that needs this most. And what my friends in the union said to me is, if you choose to actually pull this in that direction, and it wasn't, trust me, it wasn't because they disliked Southwest College. It was because they simply made a decision that it should have gone to the other, maybe because seniority or whatever. My job was to be the voice for the district, the college that I knew needed to have, could benefit from all of that community. It was the right thing to do. And so what my friends said to me is, if you insist on, quotes, winning this particular battle, you know, elections are coming up, and we may have to not support you anymore. And I said, as I said, when the first time I had a job when I was just getting out of college, and my headmaster said to me at that time, the headmaster said, after I had interviewed with 13 other people, and they'd said at the end of the day, you know, you are the most qualified of all the candidates, but, and this will tell you how old I am, but we can't hire you because if we do, it will be quotes, and I'll never forget this as long as I live, it will be a quote departure from racial policy. And I, a child of the South, who knew all this, said to them, if you make a decision to take somebody that's less qualified than me, that's your decision. Thank you, I'm gone. And why was I able to do that? At the same reason for why I was able to say to my friends at Los Angeles Community College, I love you guys and we work together, but you know what? This is going to Southwest. And they said, well, we'll have to go birth against you. I said, so do that. So they did. And I was defeated. It was very interesting what they did. They put three people in the primary to make sure that we ended up with 2. But the point is, I lost that election. But you know what? Southwest College got a nursing program. And I eventually went to the legislature. And I would do it again, as I know every single one of you, including Sydney, on that board. Because when we are the voices of our community, there's always a day when you have to look in the mirror and say, are you going to be willing and able to look in the mirror tomorrow morning? And I'm sure for every sister that sits on this board, I'm sure for every sister that sits in that legislature, for all the sisters who are sitting in all of these arenas, that we are there and we stay there or don't stay there, because the decisions we make will always be whether when we get the microphone, do we do the right thing? And I wanted to just share that. Those are still my friends, by the way. I didn't hold any grudges about that. And I don't know if anybody's ever told you that story. It doesn't matter, but I tell it because I want to say that all of us who sit in public office at this board and every place else, there comes a day when you have to know, just like Fannie Lou Hamer and everybody else, that it's time to either step up or get out of the way.
Thank you, Trustee Henderson. Right now, talking about elected officials, I want to bring greetings and to say thank you, Dr. Carlos McGee, who is the president of the Inglewood School Board District. Dr. McGee, thank you so much. You were instrumental in bringing Dr. Archie Hudson here. So I know you have 2 words to say today.
Got lots of words.
Unofficially slaughtered. That's what I walked away with. Dr. Gallagher, I want to thank you for allowing Los Angeles City College to have this platform. I have followed this college and its Black Lives Matter town hall since its inception. And Dr. Day, you're not just a friend, but you are someone that is always willing to get the job done. It was no incident or anything when you said you needed someone and I said you need to get Dr. Marguerite Archie Hudson. We all knew her and we know her legacy. And my shoulders are definitely trying to pull people up just as she pulled me up. She is truly my mentor. Marguerite, you know, I love you to the moon and back. And when you talk about Southwest College and that nursing program, my godmother had the distinct pleasure of running that nursing program for almost 26 years.
Wow.
Wow. And so you never know these things, you know, and the number of students that have benefited as registered nurses now in this pandemic, we never know what we're raising or bringing to the forefront. So with that being said, you have a lot of friends on there. I want to give a shout out to Karen Earl because we've been texting back and forth. But we just wanted to say, thank you for coming home for a little while. We miss you, we love you, and we thank you and are so grateful for all the work that you've done over the years. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Dr. McGee. Wow. Let's move now to questions. Lillian, I'm going to turn it over to you. I think that there are one or two questions.
Okay. All right. The first question is from Lizbeth Gant Britton. Many of our students are disillusioned with politics and even education due to what's been going on. What advice do you have?
Students tell me all the time that they are disillusioned with politics and they don't see any reason why they should pay attention to it. And I say, well, here's the thing. You live in a democratic system, and so what you need to understand is every single thing that happens to your education, whether you get one, where you get one, how it works, whether you have the support you need, whether you will have, all of that stuff is made by generally all white men for the most part in the government, everywhere. Education, what federalism said to the states, what the federal government said to the states is if you want to educate somebody, you do it because that's not what we do. But fundamentally what I say to them, every time you say that you aren't going to be voting, you aren't going to participate, there are a lot of people who are happy because you are one less person that they have to deal with. But fundamentally, here's what you did. You gave your proxy to somebody else. And if you did that, you should not be surprised that they use it as a baseball bat to slam you up inside the head. So yeah, go run. Do that if you want to, but recognize that that's what people are asking you to do. Because the people who are warriors stay in the game. So you can't convince me that it's a cool thing to do to not participate. That's what people want you to do. So fine. And they go, well, I said, no, I'm just telling you that people are counting on your being disillusioned. And what do you think? Where do you think you would be if 400 years ago, 300 years ago, 200, last week, the people who are standing up for you and working so hard to pave paths had cut and run when they could. They didn't do that. And how dare you? Because you represent our future, man. And you can't then say, you don't get to just buy out of the system. You can cop out if you want to. And if you want to do that, hand your proxy to somebody else. And then they go, I don't want to do that. I said, well, then let's talk about, because what I need you to understand is how powerful government is and what it does. And then you can figure out how you change it. That's what you have to do. I'll have that conversation with kids all the time because they all say that we're disillusioned. I said, I know. And can you think about all of the times when everybody who paved the way for you was disillusioned? And what did they do? They took a deep breath, strapped on whatever they need to, and put one foot in front of the others. That's why you can tell me today that you have the privilege of opting out and giving your proxy to somebody else.
Dr. Day, there are no more questions in the Q&A box.
Okay, I have one. Dr. Archie Hudson, we're Sisters in Service. You know the work that we do in our organizations. And I'm like Fannie Lou, sick and tired of being sick and tired, but I know that it's time for us to keep going. And I also know the importance of taking that folding chair to the table. Also know it's important for us to create the table, but this is 2021. We're now calling this a day of reckoning. It's time to reckon. You gave us a beautiful history. I stopped taking notes. I said, wow, I learned a lot today. I thought I knew a lot, but you taught a lot today about our history. So my question to you is this really a day of reckoning? And if so, how do we collectively bring people together? I'm talking about allyship. We can't do this alone. We need other people to come in and help us along the way. So is it a day of reckoning? And how do we bring allies in so we can get this work done?
It absolutely is a day of reckoning. And one of the reasons I pointed out Black Lives Matter, because when those young women I saw Carlos put in the chat that I used the term officially slaughtered. I meant that. I meant that. And the reason we know it's a day of reckoning is that we all recall however many years, how many months ago it was that we saw somebody under the color of law murder a person, spent 8.5 minutes with a knee on his neck with the world looking because he could. That was a shock to our system. People say, well, how could this happen? You said it happens every day. You just didn't see that before. That's one reason we know we're getting real close. I mean, the Bible tell you about, God's gonna come and locusts gonna come and all of that, it may be, but this is real time what's happening here. That's one thing, that the murder of, all of the murders, the terrifying thing about it, but the murder of George Floyd is so stunning because it was so public and so intentional. That's one thing we know. The second reason we know is January 6th. The ability of people to take over that Capitol just to make sure that we would never be able to validate a president who wanted to turn away from the promise that the previous president had given, which he stated in his inaugural address. And I always tell my kids, go read the inaugural address. In that inaugural address, that president said this is a new day. And his intention was to make sure that they could fulfill a promise that had been made way back in 1619, and kind of standing out there and be 1 foot forward, one step back. I'm telling you, those last 4 years set the stage for us to do, not us, but people to do what they intended to do, which was to make this country once again one in which there was a single focus on who belonged and who didn't. And if you don't think that was the intention on January 6th, and if you don't think it had the kind of depravity to it that was analogous to what happened with George Floyd, you're kidding yourself. And one of the things that I mark about that, not only that they kicked in all the walls and beat everybody up, but when you think about people who clearly, if they'd found any of our elected officials, would kill them, including the vice president. But when you think about people who were so depraved that they brought feces and spread it around the Capitol, that level of depravity has to be fueled by the notion that we just almost made it, where we could take this government back in our hand and do what we need to do. That's what people are trying to do. And I think we have to be clear about that. Now we hear people who talk about, well, they were just little white people and they weren't doing this. Really? No. So what we have to figure out is what we have to figure out every single time. Are you going to step up, face it, do what you have to do? And one of the things that's why I gave you those 3 examples. Those women in Georgia who figured out that now was the time for them to strategically begin to change that power lever, that's no joke. And one of the ways we're going to do it is just be able to put in every place where decisions are made, and it's going to take a while. It's going to take a long time, because I think we're shifting from, feeling that the system, because it knows that it is wrong, ought to do something about it. I think we're really figuring out, the cavalry is not coming. And if it's coming for us. It's not coming to us. But look at what the women of Black Lives Matter did. They created a collaboration of people. And you're right, Sarah, it's going to take all of us. We have to understand that, which means we have to stop falling into this trap of saying we like you because, or we don't like you because. That's a part of the mission to keep us separated. What issues that are occurring at Los Angeles City College takes everybody. So Black Lives Matter, for example, has to be a tent under which all of the other issues come together. And I hope that part of what this tent is for is to say to all the sisters and brothers, you know, this country looks more like us. And that's the issue. Don't forget, tell people, watch the 2020 census and watch something else. The last 3 or 4 census, I get struck by a funny thing. In 1790, we were 13% of the population. You know what we were in 2010? 13% of the population. How does that work? I don't know whether the figures are wrong or whether something's going on, but fundamentally, we may still be, we are a stable population, true. Other people are, of course, building on that coalition. So one of the things we have to do is form coalitions, truly form coalitions around not these silly stuff about who speaks what language or what color somebody is, but about the issues that matter. The issues that matter in higher education in California, across the country, has to do about, are we building institutions and providing opportunities for everybody to be a part of that thing at the table? And, you know, we have to unmask all the political language we hear. We've got to be able to be at the table with the kind of conversation that, for example, your trustees, your senator, everybody else is telling you we need to have, which means that you have to be talking all the time to Trustee Henderson and Senator Kamlaga and other people, everybody, because part of the things that you learn, and they will tell you, is that you come to the table with a particular hue, but you come to the table with a much larger mindset about how is it that these institutions that we support, how do they broaden the table for all of us? So we have to think about, and the basic question for California, you know, with 40 million people, the 5th or 6th largest economy in the world, how do we all participate? That's a very hard conversation, really hard conversation, but we have to have it in our legislatures, in our streets, in our social organizations, everywhere. But and we have to be willing to sometimes step back and look at this issue from another person's shoes. It's hard to do because we're all, you know, scrambling until we figure out we're all scrambling for crumbs. That's all. I think we have a chance now because out of this last year and the last 4 years, where we saw the closest thing to what happened in Nazi Germany when nobody was looking. I'm dead serious about that. It scared us to death. But we also know that we've begun to make some inroads. We have to continue to do that. The vote is one of the most important thing to have because it changes the status quo. Georgia is never going to be the same. Who would have thought that those women would do that in Georgia? And they will tell you, this took a long time, but every day they figured out that sooner or later, if we do this right, our moment will come. The question is, when our moment comes, are we going to be ready? Charles Blow, in the new book he has, The Devil We Know, if you haven't read it, you ought to. Because what he reminds us about, the devil we know, what he reminds us about is that evidence of what Georgia could do is representative of the entire South. What he tells us is that the power in the African-American community in this issue, and lots of other communities actually, has headed south. And so when you think about Georgia, I live in South Carolina. We're constantly trying to figure out how we do this in South Carolina and Alabama and Mississippi. Doesn't mean that it can't happen other places. Those are places, of course, where we can make some inroads. But California is a big tent. And so what you have to ask yourself in California is, how do we know in our institutions of higher education and everything else, how do we know where the decisions are being made, who are making the decisions, what do we have to do to make sure that California reflects that's 40 million people. And one of the places you look is exactly what we're talking about in institutions of higher education, because we have to become better spokesperson. A lot of institutions of higher education, including my own here, we have to constantly push to say that you are the arbiters of intellect and a voice, and people listen to you. Why is it that we're always turning inward and talking about what's going on internally, but not recognizing that we are some very important guardians? Taxpayers pay us. People come to teach our kids. People come there. We ought to be the spokespersons for most things. The University of California, I don't know if they're doing it, but probably not. The University of California ought to be having some big ticket conversations about this heinous business that's happening with voter suppression. So it's not happening in South California. So what? California is a major voice. They ought to be using it. The California state system should be doing it. These institutions, and of course you're doing some of it, but all of our institutions ought to be helping people understand how important government is, why it matters, and what it does, and how they can change the conversation. And we aren't doing enough of it. So I hold the universities accountable, the whole higher education system, for example. The magic of California and the California community college system that I talk about all the time, this is the only place in the entire world where there is a commitment to the fact that there ought to be an educational access route throughout the entire state. But what are we doing with it? If the University of California and the California State University and the community colleges do one single thing, create some mechanism to talk about what it means when this government, all of these legislatures, 37, 40 of them, are under the colors of authority, making sure that rather than more people having a voice, fewer people are having a voice. They're doing that. But we can't do that with any integrity until we represent in all of our faculty, our administration, our student body, every place, what we think California should look like first. And then how we export that, to the rest of the world. So I think all of you, as we do in all of our institutions, have a lot to say. Ask your trustees, not your trustees there. I see Trustee Henderson. I know she agrees with me. There are many times when she'd be real happy to have other people come and say, I support what she's doing, because I know that what she's doing is important. I guess you have Sydney up in the legislature and some other people up in the legislature who will be looking for you to support them on some of those hard things they're doing. But fundamentally, I think this incredible body of educational heft in California, we've heard very little from about what's happening in this country, which is 37 to 40 states out of 50 are right as we speak. There are over 300 laws that are being passed by legislatures to suppress the votes of people so they can't vote. And you know why we can do that? They can do that. I speak as a former legislator, so you know this, because legislatures make election laws. You think people know that? They don't know that. That they make election laws. They are authorized by the constitutions of the state to make the laws. And unless the law happens to run afoul of the federal constitution, the federal government really has nothing to say about it. You know why they want the voting rights laws that they are putting in place won't have a place with the Justice Department? It's because they took out Section 5 of the Justice Department, which said before those states that are doing scary stuff have to have a clearance. They have to do it anymore, Section 5 clearance. Just basic information that needs to come from the universities, because universities really don't have a dog in this fight in the sense that they're a political institution, but they are the intellectual power base of all of our states. And I'm telling you, we hear very little from institutions of higher education about all this terrifying stuff that's happening across this country. Because if you think that the powers that be are not working like crazy to make sure that they can recapture what they thought they had with this former president, no, that's not true. This is a reckoning time, Asara Day, for all of us. But those of us in higher education, I think, owe a particular debt, because we're the ones that people look to. You know, we have the intellect, we have all of the intellectual power, we can command the voices. We don't do that. I'm sure Senator Sidney would love to have, I'm sure that Trustee Henderson, all of us in these public spaces would like to hear more of a public voice about all of the kinds of things. We keep talking about the question you asked earlier about students who say, you know, why should they vote? That's a legitimate question. And it ought to be answered, not just by politicians, it ought to be answered. Everybody should have something to say about that. When we think about things like, we hear a lot about Los Angeles has 500,000 homeless people. What are you doing about it? Who's doing something about it? Who should be doing something? And what can we do? When you think about stuff like housing, we have biggest brains on the planet in our institution. What are they doing about it? You know, I mean, I like hearing research on the learning curve of fish, which is a cool thing, but I kind of think we push our institutions hard. We really do, because I truly believe that one of the places that continue to have an authentic voice is the university writ large. I'm talking about the whole intellectual space. We're the ones, the academy. We don't do enough about any of these big ticket items. The biggest of one at the moment is what's happening across this country as a matter of law to close down the voices of people. And it scares me to death. It should scare all of us to death.
Well, we certainly have that tent pitched, and we know that we're inviting people in. Just want you to know, I don't think I shared with you, but we are establishing a race, equity, and social justice center. And much of what you're saying is, we want you to know it will be in our curriculum. We're going to have institutes embedded in that center, one of which is the Policy Institute that we're very excited about. So we hear you loud and clear, and we appreciate your recommendations, but we're fired up and ready to move. I see Karen Earl online, and I do want to give her an opportunity to ask you a question before we move on. Ms. Earl, if you would unmute. If you would unmute, you can ask your question. Do you see a Lillian? If she can't, will you please do so for her? She just sent a message in the chat to me.
All right, let me pull her up.
Okay. While we're waiting, Dr. Gallagher, would you like to make some comments now? We're waiting on another question. I mean, I just really want you to have, if you're like me, it's like, I gotta say something.
You read my mind. You just read my mind, Dr. Day. I have been thinking, because to have Dr. McGee and Dr. Archie Hudson here, you are familiar with Los Angeles, with Dr. McGee, with the children of Los Angeles, and with the development of our children here in Los Angeles. And Dr. Archie Hudson, the experience that you have just with people, this has been really very, very enlightening for me. And the question I have for both of you, actually, Dr. McGee and Dr. Archie Hudson, is, we really need to reach our young people in a very, very, very major way. I do not believe we can continue to do things the way we've been doing it for all of these years, and to be able to attract the diversity that we want to attract, because the same old way is boring. It's not useful. it's redundant. People don't feel that they're getting anything out of it. And when I say people, I'm not talking about adults. I'm talking about young people. That there's nothing that's attracting them. And so I believe that, you know, we kind of need to just blow it up and invite a whole lot of people to the table and try to figure out what is going to attract our young people back to us, and especially our young people of color. We must have more people coming into, I'm particularly focused right now on the healthcare industry for employment. We must get our young people of color interested in going into the healthcare profession, because there are not enough people to help our people who are suffering in our communities. I was just talking with someone about this earlier today. If you call 911 and the person, the EMT who comes to your home, doesn't look like someone you want to have take you away from your home to wherever they would take you, you will not go. You will continue to suffer. This is very, very serious. This is very, very serious. And so my ask to you is, where do you see that explosion that needs to happen, I guess is how I would put it.
Well, I think, I don't know what Carlos is going to say, but a couple of things. One is that when I first came to California, I came to run the Upward Bound program at Occidental College. And that program made an assumption that our job was to do two things: find people where they were and truly hear them when they told us what they need. We didn't do, that's what we had to do. And part of what the students needed was something that also had to connect with their parents. So I would say one of the things that happens in higher education too often, and in K-12, we put the burden on the wrong people. You know, we say that these kids are not interested in education. What they don't do, as you said, Dr. Gallagher, is they can't make the link because they don't really see why what we're doing is connected to their daily lives and what they need. So we have to become, in some ways, disruptors of our own system. And you're right, we have to ask ourselves, why in the world are we doing this? We have to ask ourselves, not because the trustees said that, not because the state said, why are we doing this? And what should we be doing instead? And you know what? Ask people, what do you need us to do? And then listen to what they say. We rarely do that. We always assume that the burden is on it. We say, well, if they were really interested, you know, this would happen. That isn't true. And when it comes to children, what I hear all the time is, well, you know, in addition to all the just perverse stuff you hear, you know, Black boys who are jumping around are aggressive and therefore dangerous. Kid doesn't come to school because the mama doesn't care. And I said, maybe it's because the mother is working, can't bring him. Maybe it's because, and the kid has been in 4 different schools. Has it ever occurred to you that maybe the mother is trying to find some place where she can live, where she can have rent, whatever? But the point is, I think we have to put in our head that we need to absolutely be disruptors of our own system, first of all. And then we have to have a real conversation. It may be that, I'm just taking city, I'm picking on city because we're here. It may be that city spends a lot of time having things like open houses and stuff to which people don't come. Maybe you need to have that in Nixon Gardens. Maybe that's what you need to do. Maybe you need to figure out a way to actually go to East LA and park somewhere. Maybe you need to be able to truly for example, with an immigrant community, any immigrant community, we have to be engaged with what being an immigrant person means to that person. We never think about, we read all the stuff about what's happening in immigration, the border and all of this stuff. But, you know, I mean, just essentially trying to put ourselves in the space of the person and recognizing that what we offer has got to be connected in some ways to what they need. It may be that children need, first of all, are some ability to have health care before they can even think about what happens in school. And Dr. McGee, I'm sure, will talk about stuff like that. But basically, I just think that starting with what they need as opposed to what we expect is a good thing to do. Be very, very radical in disrupting our systems. When I came to the College of Charleston, then I'll be through, and they were asking me what I was going to teach. I said, there are three things I want to teach. I want to teach education policy because nobody knows anything about that. I want to teach health policy because, as you said, that's important. And I want to teach a course called Policymaking in State Legislatures because nobody knows what that is. And that's what I do. And the reason I do it is I'm teaching our students, you know, why these things particularly matter. That doesn't make me a great savant or anything. It's just this normal thing. So that's what I would say. But I defer to my friend Carlos McGee, who I've known for a very long time, as she said, and who has got, I'm sure, something to say about this very point.
Thank you, Dr. Hudson. I think the one thing that I would share, you had Dr. Bernice King on last month. And the one takeaway I took away is her love initiative. I don't think people realize how powerful love is, but you've got to create a climate within your own institution where your faculty is on that page. Because anybody that you bring to the table, be it our young people, their parents, there has got to be a look that says, we want you here. Exactly. It is absolutely true that our students must be at the table so that we're finding out what they want. But that love initiative, I have watched it in our school district as we empower our unions and our teachers and staff to really come up with a platform that says we really care about these students. And to care about them will help bridge that gap that we so often look to fill those spaces. And so for me, I would say that love initiative, it just wraps around so many different opportunities. When you talk about healthcare and wanting to provide a platform to get more students engaged in that particular area, we're looking for educators. I mean, we have downsized every profession that is needed to run this country. And that's because we have isolated those that can make the difference. And we have isolated them with our bad behavior. So I really believe that when we change the culture and we start to embrace all of our children and we see them as whole, loving, and productive and capable human beings, you will see a better tomorrow. You will not have problems really reaching out and getting those classrooms filled. They're ready. We just have to be ready for them.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate it.
Now I see Ms. Earl has joined us. You had a question for Dr. Archie Hudson. I know you just wanted to say hello to her, but
I have a question.
You got a question too. You want to say hello and you got a question. Go ahead.
It's quick.
She didn't say hello. She just said she has a question. Yeah, that's Karen Earl. All right.
I've been so intrigued. And thank you for inviting me, Dr. Carlos McGee. Dr. Archie Hudson. Okay, there are some of your students, and please forgive me, I'm just being me. Some of your students are 100 years old. And here you are just being so deep and fabulous and still sharing the wisdom and what I call implementable actions. And I just want to know, how do you do it? How are you staying relevant? Generation after generation.
Well, let me say this. I referenced
Dr.
earlier.
Hudson, before you get started, you need to share with this audience, we are all little proteges of this woman. But Karen is the executive director for the Genesee Center, which is one of the only centers for women of color to come and get help if they have had domestic violence experience. And that is because of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It's late, yes. And we get silly, but well, that's because of Dr. Hudson, and it's
absolutely
just
okay.
So
I'm glad to pick that up. I'm glad to pick that up because Karen Earl, all of you, I don't know about all of you on this Zoom, but across this country, Genesee Center is known as one of the not only the oldest, but one of the premiers domestic violence shelters. That's no accident. When Karen and I started, she always says I made her do this.
You did.
But you know, when we started, there were probably 7 of us, I think.
Exactly.
In a raggedy old building on Broadway that we thought every day it was going to fall down. We really did. We're probably right. And so to see what's happened with Genesee, again, with the mission of making sure, we used to say that our goal is to work ourselves out of business. But the real fundamental issue was there was a real, both a need and some conviction from people, including Karen, who has many, many days, probably want to throw something at me, but many, many days had to take a really deep breath and remind herself that the women and the children needed this safe harbor, not just to escape from what was happening with them, but to be able to make sure they could go on and make sound lives. And so now, if you know what Genesee is, when she tells me, well, we have like 154 beds and we have 3 houses and we have all these things and we've got all these millions of dollars, they've earned that, every single piece of it. And one of the things that is so important about Genesee is that we understood that the women who first put together that raggedy little 2-room, those were women who also stood up. Those were women who were victims of domestic violence, victims themselves or their mothers were. And there came a day, going back to what Dr. Day said earlier, where we were on the line and you had to fish or cut bait, and they decided they'd fish. So yes, Karen Earl she's now a lot more famous than me, I'm telling you. And I say, but that's true. We had lots and lots of struggle, and you always have lots of struggles, and sometimes with her own board, and you know, because wherever you are, wherever we are, we all know that if you're doing something that's right, there'll be people who will try to impede you because they have attitudes about the worth of the work you're doing. I saw that, by the way, when we were building the California Science Center, where that was the first time in my life as a legislator, Sydney will appreciate this if she's still on, where as we tried to do that, I had to get the first $35 million, which was not easy, but we were going to do it. I lost all my bills that year. They just canceled because they thought I should be. And you know why? Because the legislators from Northern California, when we talked about what we wanted to do, a world-class center for Black and brown kids in South Central, looked me in the eye and said they didn't deserve it. San Francisco deserved that. Los Angeles does not deserve it, and we're not going to let you do it. We did it anyway. And you know what happened when we finally got the money? They sued us, our Democratic colleagues from Northern California, because they thought we weren't worth it, but we won anyway. And I say that because that kind of fight we had, where again, we were on the line, we had the fish and cut bait, is what Karen Earl has had to do for the last 100 years that she's done Genesee Center. So we're really, really proud of the work she's done. But as Carla said, make no mistake, that has been a very high hill to climb, as Amanda Gorman likes to say, but she's done it. And I know I'm embarrassing her and I don't care because she really has earned her plaudits. But I wanted to tell you about that other fight, as I did, about California Science Center, because all of us, including you, Dr. Gallagher, will know when you decide to disrupt what you're doing at City College and do what Dr. McGee said, figure out how you make it a place where people know that they're cared about and they're loved and their issues matter. People are going to come after you. And after Trustee Henderson and after everybody, because that makes you an official disruptor, but it also means that you begin to open date. I'm sure that Dr. Day know when she decided to talk about Black Lives Matter town halls. They probably call her a racist. They probably said she shouldn't do that. They probably said it was divisive. And they probably said, somebody keep that crazy lady from doing that, but she did it anyway. And then expanded the notion to say, this is a focused conversation that has a very big tent. Everybody is a part of this. And whenever all of us in our various places know that we've had to fight for whatever we believe in, but I always tell people to go back, and that's why I reference what happened in 1865 when they kicked us off, having had us in bondage for 200 years, because I always think about how dare, to your point, Earl, how dare I think this stuff's too hard? Because just think about what they had to do. Just think about it, and every day. And so part of what keeps me going, Karen, is that I'm too mean to not do. But having returned to the South, I realize that there's a lot of work to be done here, and there are a lot of good people to do it, but somebody's got to do it. So in my links chapter, Dr. Day, and we'll talk offline about the fact that we have literally become the voice of COVID-19 in this city and in this state. We're now driving for our largest hospitals how they do this whole vaccination thing. It's making us crazy. We're spending far too much time, but in all of our venues, we recognize that we have the privilege of having a voice and a microphone. So just use it. Sometimes people try to cut it off, but so what?
Wow, Dr. Archie Hudson, I really hate to bring this conversation to a close. You have just shared so much wisdom and knowledge with us, and you've been unselfish in doing it. You've been organically speaking about your journey. You have passionately shared your story. I can't wait to continue our conversation, but I just want to say on behalf of the Black Lives Matter Town Hall Planning Committee, thank you for being here today. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Gallagher, who will express her gratitudes. And then we're going to go into our last 30 minutes of the town hall meeting, because we're not finished yet. We have planned some very exciting things for the rest of the town hall.
Well, I would like to just watch the rest of that, if I might.
Stay and watch, don't leave.
I won't.
Dr. Gallagher, and then we'll go right into our next activity.
Thank you so much, Dr. Day. I so appreciate it. Wow, this has been remarkable. I mean, we continue to have these conversations on these different subject areas. And one of the things that's happened as a result of this great conversation today is, I think for us, when we started down this road to really make sure that we took action, because when the incident happened, it wasn't an incident. When the murder of George Floyd happened the way it happened, we knew immediately that it was time for action. It is not time for talk. It is time for action. And we did take decisive action. We are ready to roll up our sleeves and to do this work. We are committed to doing this work. We so appreciate the fact that when we reached out, you reached back and came to us today. You will be people who we will tap into again as we do the work in the Race, Equity, and Social Justice Center. Public policy is a critical component of that. We will have an institution around that. I expect we'll be in close contact with you, Dr. Archie Hudson, because
Absolutely.
we know that without the right policies, that talk is just cheap. And there is a lot of money, opportunity that will flow very, very quickly to us. And we have to be very mindful of what we do with that and make sure that what we do with that helps the people who need the help, especially who need the help the most. But we have so many people in our immediate community, our immediate service area, who need us to step up and get the job done. They don't want to hear us talk. They want to see us do. We are ready, and we will be an integral part of the economic recovery so that the people in our service area have better economic and social mobility than their history has shown. It is time. We're done talking. I so appreciate having you. You ignited something today. I mean, I'm pretty excitable anyway, but I wrote so many notes today, and I have so many stars. That means I have a whole bunch of action items. So equity team, get ready. They're always there to answer the call. And I could go on and on to thank you. I know we want to get to our next part, but Dr. McGee, I do think that there's something there that we will be able to do something meaningful with you as well. And I just want to tell you, Karen Earl, I want to meet you and sit down with you and see what you do. And I want you to understand what we want to do, because we want for no one to have to enlist your services. We want to build something here that results in domestic violence being eradicated. It's possible. It is possible. We can do it. It takes the entire village, but we're a great village. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gallagher. One of the things that the Black Lives Matter team wanted to do to commemorate Women's History Month, we wanted to have an opportunity to celebrate women whose shoulders that we stand. So we have created a video for you.
Wow.
Camille, roll the video.
Now you understand just why my head's not bowed. I don't shout or jump about or have to talk real loud. When you see me passing, it ought to make you proud. I say it's in the click of my heels, the bend of my hair, the palms of my hands, the need for my care, because I'm a woman, phenomenal woman. That's my mother and all your mothers, and my grandmothers and your grandmothers, and my great-grandmothers and your greats and my great-greats and all you women and you.
Happy Women's History Month from the Black Lives Matter team. We celebrate and salute all of you for everything that you do. We salute you and say, keep up the great work. And now what we want to do is to open up the mics. We still have individual. We have about 50 people still on, Dr. Gallagher. We're excited that they stayed. Now we want to open up the mics and give you an opportunity to shout out and just salute that woman who has inspired you. Say your name and tell us who that individual. There's 60 people on, so let's do it. Evan has put the prompt in the chat. My name is, I celebrate, salute, and pay homage to. Give the name and tell us because she's great, she's wonderful, whatever you like to say.
Well, I'll go ahead and start. Let's get it going, everybody.
Yes.
So my name is Mary Gallagher. I am the very proud president of Los Angeles City College. And I want to give a shout out to Dr. Martha Romero. I met her early in my career as an academic administrator. She had been in community college administration for many, many years. She retired as the president of the College of the Redwoods. And she inspired me to be myself. How important it is to always be your true self. And that has made a tremendous difference. I am who I am. I will make mistakes. I will laugh at things that are funny. I will get a little crazy sometimes, but I am who I am. And what you see is what you get. That's what I tell everybody. So she inspired me to be me, and that has served me well.
Yes, feel free to join in as well too. I see people putting comments in the chat, but we'd like for you to share it aloud. This is a way of us closing out the town hall meeting. We want you to say it, celebrate that person.
Okay, Wendy, you can speak. I unmuted your mic.
Oh, thank you so much. So thank you all for having this. I've really enjoyed learning so much, and I just wanted to give a shout out to my mother, Paula, who has loved and supported me throughout my life as a music educator and a musician. And she's been a wonderful role model for me, just strong, independent woman, and I'm so happy to be her daughter. Thank you so much for giving me the time to say that.
Thank you.
I'll share mine. As you saw, Dr. Mary Gallagher is a person who had inspired me. She's teaching me diplomacy. I still haven't passed that course yet, but she's taught me everything, a lot of things I know regarding budget. So everything that I know is because of her taking the time out to teach me and show me. She's one that, you heard the adage, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach him how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. Well, she's that type of person in regards to me learning professionally. So if you show me something, I don't have to come back and ask you. And that's how I try to emulate that when I help other people. Also, another person who's now on this call is Dr. Yasmin De La Houssaye. She was the first person who gave me the opportunity to be an executive assistant within the Los Angeles Community College District after about 26 years of being in the district. She saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, and I thank her for that. And by working in that capacity at the district level, you see a lot of things and you can't say a lot of things. So being that I'm a spiritual person, I pray for a lot of things. So those are the two women I especially want to give thanks to for being mentoring toward me and to me.
I will go next. I would be remiss if I did not follow up with Lillian to say thank you to Dr. Mary Gallagher. I've had an opportunity to work globally in many different arenas, giving global service. And it has just been amazing how we have had the opportunity to work with Dr. Gallagher. As she said, she took a bold step last year. We've been doing these Black Lives Matter town hall meetings for long as you have heard us doing them since last year. But the one thing that I want to say about Dr. Gallagher that I admire, and I've been at the institution and I don't mind saying it. Sometimes I shy away from saying it, but Dr. Archie Hudson, this is my 3rd decade at Los Angeles City College. I stayed at City College because I love City College. I believe in City College mission. I know that City College is dedicated to the institution. So I want to shout out Dr. Mary Gallagher for her boldness. This is a hard time to be a leader. In 2021, you made those comments, Dr. Archie Hudson, and how you have to make those unpopular decisions. You have to go with what you feel, and you have to make the decision in the best interest of the individual. So I want to thank Dr. Gallagher because of her caring, humanistic spirit. She really does care about people. She has been bold about making the decision and what she's going to do around race, equity, and social justice. So I just want to say thank you, Dr. Gallagher, for giving me the opportunity to serve in this capacity and for allowing me to rejuvenate after having been at City College for quite some time. See Elizabeth Gant-Britton also there. Can you unmute her mic?
Hi, are you having me talk?
Kimberly, yes, you can.
All right, thank you, Thelma. Thank you, everyone who put this together today. It was really great to hear. I'm a pretty green faculty member, so I have a lot of learning to do yet. But I wanted to give a shout out to Dr. Imelda Perez. She's my dean over in the adult education program, and she's been a really supportive, strong mentor and role model for me this past year and a half. And also Ms. Vita Hill, who's one of my colleagues in adult education, who've just really helped me see what we can do, the impact we can have as women at the community college to serve our community. So shout out to Imelda Perez and Vita Hill.
Okay, we have Alejandra Chavez. You may speak.
Yeah, hi. So my name is Alejandra Chavez, and I would like celebrate, salute, and pay homage to Dr. Nairi Berry. Not sure if you're in the room today because I came late, but I took the Sociology 11 course with Dr. Berry my first semester, and I was glad to have met her in person. One of the best teachers at LACC that I've had, and now I'm in my last semester and about to transfer, and I'm still referencing the lessons I learned, like the things that we learned in the syllabus and was structural, but also just like real world lessons, and the fact that she pushed us as students to apply to scholarships and so much great advice. I still carried around with me. So thank you, and I'm gonna keep doing great things. Your names popped up a lot in emails and all. And I've gotten to also work with you and a couple months ago, I think, on something here. So so glad that you're someone who's a part of the faculty at LACC. And yeah. Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Lovely. Do we have anyone else?
I see Elizabeth Gant-Britton.
Let's see where she go.
Dr. Berry raised her hand. I unmuted her.
Okay.
Oh, I just want to thank everyone. I've been on this campus for a while, and each time I walked into all the women at City that I've ran into, and I apologize if I forget anyone's name. First and foremost, Dr. Gallagher, she she encouraged me. Each time I'm in her presence, she encouraged me. She say, go hard. She said, there's a lot of you in you. There's a lot in you. There, your presence is everything. Go hard. I like to thank even Naima, Dr. Day, Lillian, Chris, Anika, every single woman that I run into, Dr. Porche, Andrea, Dr. Smith, every single woman that I run into on this campus, I take a piece of you and I learn and I grow from it. And I just want to thank you all. And when Alex, she mentioned me, I was so shocked. When she said I'm in my classroom, I'm thinking about what it takes to be a person of color, a person that come from, as we would say, Alex, the hood, to be successful and to stand firm on injustices. And so those are the things that I'm bringing to the classroom. And I just want to thank all the women on that campus. And again, thank you.
Katie Hamilton, you can speak.
Okay, thanks. Hi, thank you for doing this, first of all. I'd like to celebrate, salute, pay homage to Rosalind Goddard, librarian extraordinaire. I'm not sure if she's here. I know she's been coming to these town halls. And she's a trailblazer in the field, my friend, a mentor, amazing poise, style, grace, and she teaches me how to listen. We still talk and consult on things, and our time working together, I learned so much, and she's always been so supportive and just showed me different ways of seeing things and interacting with other people and just how to be a better librarian and person. So I'm just really grateful to be able to work with her and know her and be friends with her. And she stays engaged in all sorts of cultural events. She has an amazing stamp collection, very curious mind, and has endured so many things. So just wanted to salute and celebrate her. Thank you, Rosalind.
I want to piggyback on that because Rosalind Garter was my librarian when I was 8 years old. So
wow.
She was a student at UCLA. She was 19, and my love for reading and writing came from that love that I spoke of so earlier, Dr. Gallinger, because I loved being with her. I had no idea my mom was dropping me off at the library from 9 o'clock in the morning to 4 o'clock in the afternoon because she was getting free babysitting hours. But for me, I just loved seeing her. She was beautiful, she was kind, and when I tell you, children respond to that. There's an old saying, you may not remember what I said, you may not even remember what I did, but you will remember how people make you feel. And as someone in their 60s now, to be able to say that Rosalind Garter is a mentor to me, let you know that that love that I spoke of earlier, it's magic and it works. So I see she's on the line. Rosalind Garter, you know I love you to the moon and back, and you are truly one of my superheroes, and I celebrate you in this She Hero Month.
Okay, Rosalind, you have the floor.
Well, to say that I'm shocked is an understatement. And I wanted to, first of all, compliment LACC for what it has been doing almost the entire year, from May to now, with a series of excellent and outstanding Black Lives Matter programs and presentation. I also want to thank Dr. Marguerite Archie Hudson for her fierce and focused presentation. And I have kind of a special connection to her because my mother, whom I gave homage to in a written piece in the chat, graduated at the age of 17 from Talladega College. And Talladega was a very special place. And when she passed away, one of the things that I have done is to purchase a brick. So she is now on the campus at Talladega College forever. Finally, I want to thank Katie Catherine Hamilton. I am stunned. Thank you so much for that wonderful, wonderful tribute. I so appreciate it. And Dr. Carlos McGee, what can I say? I will share something. She will not address me by my first name. She will continue, because she insists, to address me as Miss Goddard. And so I can't tell you how wonderful all of that is. And finally, yes, I am retired, but while I was an active employee at LACC, I was able to do a lot of amazing things, including launching the LACC book program. But all that aside, LACC is just a magnificent place. And as a retiree, I still contribute money to the foundation that goes directly to students and hold the campus in highest esteem. I hope I have not forgotten anyone, but anyway, I'm sort of stunned. But thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts.
Thank you very much for sharing, Rosalind. We love you, appreciate you, and always like to see you back on campus. This brings us to the end of our Black Lives Matter program today. It has been truly empowering. I have learned so much, as I said before today, and I look forward to having Dr. Archie Hudson back so that she continue that conversation. But I will now turn over the town hall meeting to Dr. Gallagher to close us out. Thank you all for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you so much, Dr. Day. You know, in closing this out today, it feels very bittersweet to do it. It's as if I almost don't want to leave. Having this conversation, it feels like we're just having afternoon tea. I mean, that's just kind of how this feels for me today. And I don't think I felt that way in any of these town halls that we've had. And maybe because it was all women and we're just, you know, getting together and, you know, doing what we do, which is, you know, chatter, chatter, chatter. And we love to talk to each other and be around each other and share our stories. But I feel so thankful and so fortunate that we came together this afternoon. You made my Women's History Month. I'm just going to say this because Thelma, you have just, you've done such a magnificent job. I'm practically speechless about it. I mean, every time we do one, it gets better. And I can't imagine that it can get better. And I know it's going to get better because every time you've done something, you are plussing it, as Walt Disney would say. Give 100% and plus it. And you know, life works in very strange ways, right? You think that you're winding down and you end up winding up. And I know that's what's happened with Dr. Day, that this work that we're doing now. I mean, I told her at one point in time, I believe that this is my life's work now. I mean, yes, I'm the president of LA City College, But I believe that this Race Equity and Social Justice Center, these movements, Black Lives Matter, these other movements that we have, making sure that our students, our faculty and our staff and our administrators and our community feel that they belong. That is the most important thing. People feeling that they belong. We are their community college. We are their haven. We are our haven. We are your haven. We are the place to come to do what you need to do to make life better for you. Because when it's life is better for you, it's better for me, and it's better for all of us. And I want to tell you, Dr. McGee, when you talked about Dr. King's talking with us about the Love Initiative, I just believe that if we just love ourselves, that then we can love others. And then when we love ourselves and we love others, then our world is filled with love. Because when we are faced with these crazy, evil things that happen, it's not understandable at all. But now I'm just, getting philosophical here. So I'll end this by saying, you have given me so much today. Thank you so much for giving so much of yourself today, for staying. Thank you, everyone in this town hall who came and spent whatever time you could. Those of you who stayed the entire time, thank you so much, because I can feel the change, and it is so exciting to see this happening. I believed it in June, but I'm feeling where we're going, and it's a great place. So thank you for sharing your time with us. Thank you for sharing yourself with us. We will be tapping into you again, I know, because you are women who will be able to do some amazing things in our Race Equity and Social Justice Center. So we'll see each other again. So this is definitely not goodbye. So everybody have a wonderful rest of your Friday. Have a wonderful weekend. And we'll do this again on Monday. Thank you, everybody. Mwah. I love all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Archie Hudson. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much. Enjoy. Thank you, Trustee.
Thank you. Safe travels, everybody.
And thank you, Trustee Henderson.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming and staying.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
And I'll be
Thank
getting
you
in
very
touch
much.
with you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.